They came here with high hope.
Well, collectively, you've got to say it's one of the great days in Australian racing when the dates fall at the right time. We had 5 Group 1 races, 2 of them in Sydney, 3 at Flemington, and a number of other feature races in the big build-up. Durbridge and Dark Czar, the surprising champions yesterday. Durbridge not so much, I guess, Keith, because his form's outstanding, but Dark Czar did full of surprise at the Randpit. Your thoughts on the Australian Cup and Durbridge's newfound status and Mahogany's performance in 3rd placing?
It's a lot to cover there, Bruce, but Durbridge is the weight for age star of Australia at the moment. He's got the ingredients, he can take a box seat and he can settle when he's asked to. He's unbeatable at the moment at weight for age. Mahogany, to my mind, disappointing. There was a school of thought that he gave Durbridge too big a start, but I think that was knocked out the door when we saw Station Hand beat Mahogany to prevent a Lee Freedman Quinella. Lee won his 6th Group 1 race for the year and his 1st Australian Cup.
Max, a couple of months ago, if I said Durbridge and Dark Czar would win the Group 1 races on this day, I think you would have got pretty big odds. We don't have a naturalism of Viandacross at the moment, do we?
No, but we've got to concede that Durbridge is going very well at present. Like Keith, I thought Mahogany was disappointing. Certainly the sectional times made it very difficult for Mahogany to win as the race was run. But nevertheless, the fact that Station Hand was able to come from behind him and beat him home in the last 20 yards, I just wonder, well, I've always wondered whether Mahogany is as good a stayer as he is a sprinter.
Well, I suspect Mahogany Max is deserting to Durbridge, Bruce.
No, not at all, not at all. I do recall, and I'm sure you'll correct me if I'm wrong, that I wasn't overwrapped in Mahogany's last start performance.
When he just beat Pride of Rancho. I can't disagree with you, Max, because I've got a very good memory. It's exactly what you said. As we go to yesterday's race, with Mahogany getting a fair way back, he's second last at the moment. He had the feeling that Greg Hall probably thought he had them covered. Durbridge is in his favourite position, just sitting on Captain Cook. Far behind them, Pride of Rancho, our Pompey struggling. Mahogany now comes to the outside, but look at Durbridge accelerate.
Now, this is what wins weight for age races. Durbridge cruising up to Captain Cook. Simon Marshall, he's riding ever so well, albeit on a stay of proceedings. He asked Durbridge to give more, and he does. Mahogany makes his run. He died on that run, and Station Hand will beat Mahogany for 2nd placing, but Durbridge scooting away. This Australian Cup is developing into the best 2,000 metre weight for age race in Australia. Records prove it. The last 3 winners have been the horse of the year.
And they have, and the other thing, it's pretty hard for a 3-year-old to win. Dulcify was the last one to win in 1979, so for Mahogany to have won yesterday, he would have had to be extra special. And I've got a feeling he's just a very, very good horse.
Yes, decision time on Mahogany, whether he'll go to Sydney for the AJCW or take a break.
Yeah, and you spoke to Lee Freedman about that after the race.
Lee, we know what went right with Durbridge, what went wrong for Mahogany.
Well, I don't know. It's, you know, in the heat of the battle after the race, I think he may have got too far out of his ground, and I think the trip became a bit more testing when they ran pretty reasonable time through soft ground, and I think that, you know, I really think that horse is a much more brilliant racehorse on top of the ground. But having said that, he's run a great race to run 3rd, and I mean, he is only 3, so we'll look after him. Durbridge just stunned me this time, and he's just gone from strength to strength. You know, we've always known he's a good horse, but he's looking like he could beat anything at the moment.
Gee, hasn't he had some good horses, Lee Freedman, with Superimpose and Naturalism, a couple coming to mind, and now Durbridge. Will Mahogany go to Sydney?
Well, I don't know whether he should now. Maybe he does need a break. He's really got to improve, but he did make that improvement last year from a 2,000 metre race at Moonee Valley to win our derby.
Max, your feeling, would you spell him or send him up to Randwick?
For a start, I think your derby, Keith, was pretty Kleiner. I don't know about him as a derby horse. I would consider the Doncaster with him. He's not well in the Doncaster. I wouldn't even rule out a race like the Stradbroke for him, but certainly I'd be looking more at the sprints than the staying tests. I don't think he'd beat Arborea over 1.5 miles at Randwick the way he's going at present.
Fair enough. The Newmarket yesterday, strange old race. Look at this, Mukta under the whip on the inside, a horse that you'd have a big query at 1,200, even at his best form. Pitcairn Edition tackling, never undercharged, looking like he'll wind up, primacy out of it, brawny spirit down the outside on his own, and Mukta just kept going.
It was so difficult to pull ground at Flemington yesterday. This is the Oakley Plate winner of last year, Mukta in front, and he does what some of us thought he might have done last year. He wins the Newmarket. And in my time in racing, Bruce, well, it's 10 years or more. I've never seen a happier jockey than young apprentice Stephen Baster.
Just 10 years, Keith. What did you make of some of those stars like Ken Vane and Keltrice and Primacy?
Primacy, Mick Dittman said he would have liked to have got off 50 metres after the start. It wasn't his day. Ken Vane, Keltrice, they simply flopped. It was Mukhtar's day.
It was, and Max?
Never under charge. I thought it was a terrific run. Keith was saying how hard it is to pull ground off the leaders, beaten a length and a half, out there facing the breeze for most of the race. Simon Marshall, according to press reports, said, well, he wasn't really putting in. I don't know what he's going to do when he does put in. Yeah,
just a little... It was a good run. I've been his biggest fan.
I've got to agree with Max. I thought it was a very good run under difficulties, and it stopped Bart getting his 9th Newmarket.
Fair enough. Well, yeah, not a bad run, but let him ride over the top of him and Gitana at the end. Mark Riley, the trainer, spoke with Keith after the win.
Mark, congratulations. Yeah. Mukhtar, one of the favourite runners last year, struggling to find form this time. How did he improve?
I think the sting out of the tracks helped the horse, Keith. We've had a lot of trouble with his joints, and the horse has always been a little bit dick in the pins. He's a 4-year-old now. He's taken a little bit of time to come back into everything, and today I couldn't have had the horse any fitter and any better than what he's been today, and he's really come out and done the job for us.
Good on you, Mark. And the horse probably will be retired to stud now, or if not, go to the Galaxy. Let's go to the sires yesterday. Blevik successful, sitting outside Del Sol on the turn. This was a performance of a 2-year-old that probably lacks the acceleration and speed to win the Golden Slipper, but if taken for the sires and the Champagne in Sydney, will be really amongst the favourites.
Yes, well put, Bruce. It was a workmanlike performance, both by horse and rider. Mick Dittman showed his initiative by asking Blevik to do a lot of work. The horse responded to Dittman's vigour, and he won the sires. Blevik's owned by Robert Sangster. His presence at Flemington was reflected in the ring yesterday. 5-1 to 7-2 favourite Blevik, and landed the bets.
And David Hayes, I heard him in an interview afterwards, said, look, Dittman did sum it up perfectly, as you just said, but this horse, if ridden off the pace, can produce a very fast finish. So in the right race, he's a top-class horse, and they're looking at the Caulfield Guineas. Let's go across to the Randvet. David Hayes, another Group 1 success with Dark Czar yesterday, Max. Bit of a surprise.
Yeah, well, again, we've got pace here. It was run like a Newmarket early, so the back markers certainly were, were favoured. Now, there's Seascape, the favourite, getting up along the rails. Now, I wonder if there was some sort of prize for being in front at the furlong. Under pressure near the fence, and of course, the horse just had to stop, which he does. Now, Kingston Bay struck trouble, and down the outside, the back markers, out in the better ground, certainly favoured. But Dark Czar, good racehorse, showed it here, but if they reran it tomorrow, I don't know whether I'd want to be on him.
Thought Excited Angel didn't have a lot of luck in the straight. She has to be outside horses, and a gap just closed for her at the wrong time. But she's not really top class weight for age, Max, and it gets back to the point there's probably we've got a lack of a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old, particularly, with real class to dominate these races at the moment.
Yes, I'd agree, and if we do find one, well, the reign of the new champ is pretty brief, isn't it?
Sure
yeah,
is.
but again, it's how horses are ridden. And Seascape yesterday, forget about that run, because it was very fast pace early, and Dye had him under the whip coming to the turn. He couldn't get to the line. Dark Czar, under those circumstances, couldn't get to the line. And I even wonder whether Durbridge could.
You pick on Dye a lot.
No, I said that Dye rode a very good race on Air Seattle last week, and that's the fact of it. He rides good races, he rides bad races. I'm here to try and decipher, pick one from the other.
What about the Winfield Classic? Try and pick this for us at the furlong pole. You've never seen anything like it.
It was a very, very good race, of course. This is the best fillies and mares race in Australia, and they're so evenly graded. The horse that had the clearer run, the best run over the latter stages, was going to win. But I do think that Cap Chat is a very good filly, as she showed here, because they are very good. Flitter got a little bit of a pratt there. May have cost her finishing closer, but Cap Chat, yes, have a look at it. What a race. But down the outside, Cap Chat, very, very good run, and she's a very, very good filly.
Plainly the pattern of the day, wasn't it, Max, that the swoopers finishing wide were winning?
Well, later, as the day evolved, that became the case, Keith. Early in the day, a horse come along the fence, but then, of course, the ground chopped up there, and you had to get off the fence.
Go to the Todman Slipper trial. Is this the top 2-year-olds around. I mean, we had Hurricane Sky and St. Covert last weekend really stake a claim. What about this one? Dan Zero looks a bit unlucky, Max. He doesn't get a lot of galloping room.
Yes, if you know Dan Zero, just off the pace here in the white colours and the blue cap, can't get a run. In the Ingham colours, the pink colours, that's Poyak getting clear now and coming home very strongly. Montana Sands down the outside, but still, Dan Zero still trying to get a run. But here he is, he's out now. Note the way he gets to the line. But 140 to 1 chance, Montana Sands running on strongly. I thought Poyak won pretty well. There's Dan Zero charging along now, but the point about Dan Zero is that he did look above himself in condition. He will derive more benefit from that run than Poyak, and it's a matter of just whether he can pick up the ground. I thought they were 2 good runs. I'm not comfortably satisfied that they're better than the Melbourne horses, and St. Covert, of course, he's got to be a chance. But at this stage, I would say 5 very strong chances in the slipper.
Looks really open. We've run out of time, Keith. Can you believe it?
I can. Yeah. See you next week.
You can talk that, Max, can't he? See you next week, Max, Keith. A break coming up after this. We take a look at one of the battlers who got into the Inter-Dominion final.
And especially on your home turf, or you hope that you go out and run a nice race and drive a good race.